Hello and welcome to another episode of Sustainability in Your Ear, the Earth911 podcast. And this week we're talking to Scott Wiggins, who's the Vice President of Environmental Health and Safety at the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries. That's the recycling industry's lobbying and industry organization based in Washington, D.C. Scott, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Well, just fine. Glad to be here.
Now, ISRI, as the Institute of Scrap Recycling Industry is normally called, is doing a safety stand-down day next week. Can you tell us what a safety stand-down day is and why it's important for consumers to be thinking along with the industry about the safety of recycling workers?
Yeah, definitely. We've been participating in the Safety Stand-Down Day for about 5 years. It's actually an OSHA program. We do not follow their same schedule, but we try to line up with the OSHA program as much as we can. It is just a time where everyone stops and takes an hour out focusing on safety. OSHA has a theme. What we tell our companies is you can use OSHA's theme or you can come up with whichever fits better. This year it's fall protection and construction, so we've recommended just focusing on fall protection and also slip strips and falls.
Now, falling down sounds like it happens a lot, but there are a lot of other things that we have to take into account. So what are some of the most common sources of injuries in a scrapyard generally?
Well, actually, the slip, trips, and falls are fairly common. Scrapyards, we've all been by them and see them. They can be fairly active, and there's just the material that's coming in changes every day, and so there's this housekeeping is a constant effort. But those are probably the most common sources of injuries that are recordable injuries as far as OSHA standards, but not necessarily the most severe. The others are being struck, what are classified as struck by injuries, which are being backed over or running into something. The scrapyards themselves, too, have a lot of traffic going through. Some are professional drivers. Some are, are citizens like you and me that they just need to drop off, debris from Christmas or something like that.
Right. Now, what about the material actually being sorted? And this is something that our listeners are very deeply concerned about, is when they send something through, they want it to be safe for the folks who are handling it in the recycling facility. So let's talk about a couple of the ones, and by the way, for folks listening, I was recently at the ISRI conference in Los Angeles, the national conference, and we talked a lot about injuries in the workplace because it can have really tragic circumstances. For instance, I heard some stories about medical sharps actually causing HIV infection for people sorting the materials online. So it's important to put this stuff in the right package. So let's talk about a couple of those things and start with medical sharps. How dangerous can this be for a recycling worker if somebody puts a needle or a scalpel into recycling without having properly packaged it?
It's definitely it's a problem that we talk about at least on a weekly basis, or not more than that. What typically happens with medical sharps and the hypodermic needles themselves, a lot of people are now self-administering medications at home, and what do you do with the sharps from there? And there are certain organizations that are pretty good, but there's been a lot of poor information put out. One that you take those needles and you put them into an aluminum can, and which obviously if the can's open at the top, they can come out there. But also just when it gets to our industry, that does provide some level of protection for the collection workers.
Right.
But when they get to material recycling facility, a MRF, they go into the process where that can is actually shredded, and now we have those needles everywhere.
Right.
And the employees that are near that operation are at risk, as well as the maintenance employees, because those needles get stuck in the equipment, and so they're everywhere.
Right.
So, and we're not just talking about the needles from homes. We're also, the needles from veterinary clinics, mortuaries, just a lot of different other sources.
So what should you do with a needle if you have one in order to get it through the recycling process safely?
If you go to a pharmacy, which is where you get your needles and syringes, They all sell sharps containers, and so you put the needles in there, and there are ways to send them off. One of our problems, and we've been meeting on a weekly basis trying to address this, is making that process much more convenient. And there's one organization that we don't agree with one of their recommendations, which is to put it into something like a dishwasher soap jug, a real durable jug. And because when it gets to us, that jug gets shredded up, and we have the same problems before. Same problem. But they do the one organization is safeneedledisposal.org. And I mentioned them because I looked them up because I have sharps at home that it turns out the nearest hospital to me has agreed to accept those sharps. So it's pretty much a local solution, but there are, those in the local community that already have a sharps disposal process going on, and so they may be cooperative there.
And we have many of those in our database too. If folks are listening and wondering about that, you can search on medical.
Excellent. Okay.
Now, let's talk about another thing and this is a source of fires in a lot of recycling, both on the line and in the pile, as I understand it, and that's lithium batteries. So what is and we all know that lithium batteries can explode. Phones have been famously banned from airplanes for that reason. So how do people need to be thinking about a lithium battery, and do they need to recognize everything that has a lithium battery in it when they're trying to think about recycling safely?
Yeah, where I said we talk every couple of days at least. We talk about needles and medical sharps. We talk daily about lithium batteries. So it's kind of a similar issue. People don't know how to get what do you do with a lithium battery? The beginning of the discussion is the fact that lithium batteries, from an energy storage standpoint, are marvelous inventions. They do a great job as batteries, and they're inexpensive. There's not really a recovery process that's economical right now for them. Right. And if you go on YouTube and just Google lithium battery fires, it's very, very easy to compromise one of these batteries and watch it, start smoking or steaming and explode right there in front of you. So they're most lithium batteries, and we're talking about smartphone batteries here. Those type sizes. Cannot take a lot of abuse, and a garbage truck, getting to a recycle facility, there's going to be a lot of knocking around of those batteries, and so we're getting reports of almost some daily type of event, like it may just be a little small fire, they just separate out. There are a lot of little small ones. Our concern is that the manufacturing of these batteries seems to be getting larger and larger. If you look at your battery hand tools, those batteries have gotten stronger, more capable, and when they hit their end of life, that's what we'll be seeing. So should we be asking the manufacturers to take these things back rather than thinking about recycling them? Would that be a more effective way to go? We are, but right now it's just there's probably, I think I've heard, maybe 100,000 lithium batteries manufactured every day. And they're coming in so many different forms, all the way. We have them in greeting cards, all the way up to cars. So it's and right now it's kind of two different animals. The small batteries, the button batteries, the cell phone batteries, they're an ignition source. So if there's another material like plastic nearby, that's what's going to catch fire and continue to burn. When you get into the larger batteries, there's a lot of fuel just right there within the battery itself, and there's not much you can do about it except to stand back and watch it burn.
So, and this will happen when they get compressed, for instance, for some reason, or bent, or a lot of stuff is just put on it and creates it's surprising how many different ways a lithium battery can start a fire.
It really is. And the other part too is you also have pouch batteries. These are like the drones that are so popular now. Yeah. They're very susceptible to weight. So they use a pouch battery, which is a lithium battery, but without the hard shell around it. I mean, it's just like a plastic bag or something. So it takes almost nothing to compromise one of those.
And that can actually cause a fire too. I didn't realize that, because I figured it was because it was compressed in the body of the battery. Huh.
No, and the other part with those is the way that a lithium battery works. It will, those particular pouch batteries can swell on you, and there's actually a way to get them to go back down and still use them. But when people see them swell up and kind of puff out, they think, oh, they're bad, so that they throw them away then.
Right.
Another overall problem that we have with lithium batteries is many of them are still marked with the chasing arrow recycle symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So people think, well, they need to go into the recycle bin.
Right.
And
rather than the fact that they could be recycled. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just needs to be, they need to be separated out and managed separately.
So should they go into recycling, or should they be sent to a special program? I mean, not in the curbside, I assume, generally.
They need to go to a special program. Right now, Call to Recycle is one of the organizations that I think they have contracts or relationships with various of the home builder supply, the depot type stores. Right. And so you can take them there. You can just get them for your own company or home, and when you fill it up, you send the package in and they have them recycled. Right now, the U.S. does not have a lithium battery recycling capability. Right now, they're all sent overseas.
Right. Now, let's turn to household materials, because a surprising range of household materials can also cause injuries in a recycling facility. Everything from plastic film, which can get in and jam the machines, and then, of course, somebody has to get on the machine. You get the slips and falls. You get injuries from reaching in. But another one that we hear a lot about is the question of glass, particularly, can I throw broken glass into the recycling? And is that something that people need to be concerned about?
I've looked into that somewhat. On some of our older MRF facilities that are not as automated, where they had to rely much more on pick lines and stuff, there can definitely be a problem, but it's more of a sharps problem, right. Just as we would see with sharp metal edges and other type issues. The more high grades of glass, some glass is recyclable, others not, and so right. And most of these facilities have switched over to very high-end gloves to help protect the workers, but it's still an issue. But in the more modernized MRFs, it's an automatic process.
Okay, so if you have broken glass, do you think that it should be put in some kind of container rather than just dumped in? Is that the best way to go?
I definitely will. Yeah, and my apologies. I'm kind of looking at this based on our membership, sure, which doesn't include the collection workers themselves. That's really a different process. And I think definitely to protect the collection side of things, they need to be into some type of container.
Okay, great. Now, getting back to Safety Standout Day, ISRI works all year long within the recycling industry to raise awareness of this. What is your role, and how do you help the recycling industry stay aware all year round of the safety issues that they need to be attentive to?
We rely heavily on, we have a very robust communications department, and so we work through them on a weekly newsletter. We have our own magazine, which has safety components to that. Part of it is safety issues that need to go out right away. We'll have a safety alert. And that's something like if we get something that's happened that could be industry-wide, we'll get the word out very quickly there. And our membership's very good about sending us in near-miss information and just letting us know what's going on out in the country.
Yeah, that's what's impressive about attending the conference is the conversations and the information sharing that's going on is you just see a whole side of the industry that you would not otherwise. And most people think that recycling stops at the curb, that nothing happens after that. And so being aware of not only the investment in increased sophistication in sorting that you were talking about earlier, to the point where now AI is artificial intelligence is looking at materials and making judgments about it so that even the people are insulated from that decision and touching the material. But it's not uniform. This industry is evolving unevenly across a wide geography. Are there areas in the country that are more advanced in terms of safety, and that could just be rural versus urban, because urban environments might have more money to build new MRFs? How do people think about their recycling risk profile that way?
Well, it is very interesting. Right now, and this is not necessarily the recycle part of it, but where a lot of times we're grouped into the collection side too. The collection side's having a terrible problem with their workers being hit by distracted drivers, and there's not a whole lot they can do about that. There are a lot of options, and it's real interesting. And this is more anecdotal on my part, is the solution. One of the best solutions to that are these side loading trucks. They go along the curb. They grab the container and lift it up, but it's from the side, and so the workers are staying in the cab of the truck and protected, as opposed to the rear loading ones, which is traditionally what you see. And it's interesting. It's a lot of times these, not necessarily the rural areas, but these smaller towns, because they don't have a huge investment on the rear loading trucks, have actually been able to adopt the safer, more modern versions. So it's kind of an interesting reversal of what you would expect.
Yeah, progress backfills in an interesting way.
That is true.
The infrastructures in developing countries, they're actually ahead of us in some cases with telecom.
Yeah, exactly. We're fairly new to the DC area, and we're moving from the south. We're in a small town, and you don't have the particularly the sophisticated MRFs and other operations that you have just in on the East Coast. And after Christmas, we had the Christmas tree to get rid of and other things. And so I took my wife to a nearby MRF. She was absolutely fascinated by it, and like within a moment's time, everything gets separated at the house, and it's just, we're real diligent about it. And of course, I was looking at it from my industry, but she just really got into it. And so I think that's where different parts of the country, there could be a cultural type of buy-in that really supports it. So that's good. And like we mentioned before, with the recycling stamp on the batteries, people are doing what they think is the right thing, and we just need to catch up with them and redirect it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of education can go a long way. Well, we'll be looking at June 12th is the day that the safety stand down takes place. It happens for 1 hour during each shift of the day, so every group of workers will get exposed to this information. ISRI and OSHA will both be involved. Scott, thanks very much for helping us understand what's going on with the Safety Standout Day.
Mitch, thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. Scott Wiggins, he's the Vice President of Environmental Health and Safety at the Institute for Scrap Recycling Industries, or as it is more widely known, ISRI. Keep tuned in to Earth911. We'll be covering more safety issues. This is really something that we want everybody to be aware of. And we'll be back with another interview soon. This is Mitch Ratcliffe, and this is Earth911, Sustainability in Your Ear. Take care.